YouTube, this is Danielle, the Domestic Scientist, and in today's video, I'm going to show you 2 non-traditional Thanksgiving dishes that I just created, and hopefully they'll be non-traditional Thanksgiving favorites in the future. So stay tuned. So those of you guys who've been following my channel will know that I really like Gordan Ramsay. I like watching him on television, and I decided to try one of his recipes for the first time. So I happened to go over to his YouTube channel and I saw that he had gotten over 2 million views on a roasted pumpkin and wild mushroom soup recipe. So I just had to know what was so great about this particular recipe that so many people wanted to see this video. So I tried it out and I did post a video on my YouTube channel. There'll be a link in the description below if you would like to check it out, because that's where I'm going to go into detail about how I prepared the pumpkin. Well, after doing that video, I had so much yield from this pumpkin soup and I needed to come up with other recipes just to use it all. So as I said in the other video, the pumpkin soup was really delicious and has a great restaurant quality. However, I personally thought that it was a little bit better as a sauce than it would be as a soup. So I decided to develop a couple of recipes that are perfect for fall, especially for Thanksgiving. And I would hope that in the future, these could be some non-traditional Thanksgiving favorite options. So I have one pasta dish that I'm going to do today, and then I have one healthier alternative. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by sauteing some mushrooms. Now I have a mix of white button mushrooms along with portobellos that I'm using today, and I'm going to go ahead and season with salt, pepper, and a little bit of Creole seasoning. I'm also putting in some fresh rosemary and some extra virgin olive oil just to give it some flavor and to make sure it gets really crispy. Now, as I start sauteing these mushrooms, they are going to sweat a lot, and so you will notice that there's going to be a lot of moisture collecting. I'm going to saute it all the way down until I cook off that extra water and I have some crisp and delicious mushrooms. So as I continue to saute these mushrooms, I decided to go ahead and add in some fresh onion as well, just because I really want to enhance the flavor profile. So as I continue to saute these mushrooms, I went ahead and added some fresh onion and a healthy amount of smoked paprika. I used some red pepper paste, some minced garlic, and also some ginger paste. I am going to let this continue to saute and cook out all that extra liquid. So when it comes to pairing this pumpkin puree with a pasta, I thought a stuffed pasta would be the best way to go, since that puree has a nice vegetable-like quality. So I have this wild mushroom ravioli that I'm going to use today. Now this recipe will also work fine if you find a plain cheese ravioli or a beef ravioli if you prefer. Being that I'm a vegetarian, we are going to do wild mushrooms today. So cooking ravioli is really simple. I have prepackaged ravioli and all I have to do is put it in some boiling water. Now this is more of a fresh ravioli, and so I don't like it to get to an aggressive boil. So I make sure my water is nice and hot, just below boiling, and that's when I go ahead and put in my cold pasta. Now I should mention that this pasta has been refrigerated and not frozen, so it's not going to take the full 6 minutes to cook. I just want to leave it in hot water long enough for it to get warm on the inside. So it is time to go ahead and plate this pasta, and then we're going to move on to our healthier alternative. So now I'm going to take a quick peek at my mushrooms just to see how they have been progressing. And they are doing just beautifully. I'm loving the color that they're getting, and a lot of that moisture has now evaporated. So all I have left in the pan is just a little bit of oil. So if I wanted to really crisp up these mushrooms, I can crank up the heat and they will continue to fry and to brown. Now I would like my mushrooms to be a little bit more on the juicy side, so I'm going to keep them on a low heat until I'm ready to plate. I am going to go ahead and just stir this pumpkin puree. Again, I do have a link to the video in my description box so you can see just how I made this roasted pumpkin soup. I am going to add just a hint of brown sugar to it just because when I tasted it, it was very earthy and I wanted just a hint of sweetness. So I was very gentle with that addition of brown sugar. Also, I decided to add a little bit more pepper and a little bit of Creole seasoning just to really enhance the flavor profile. That natural pumpkin is a little bit on the bland side and I really want to make sure it has some great flavors. I'm also adding a little bit more smoked paprika because it is one of my favorite spices. If you've been following my channel, you know I'm obsessed with smoked paprika and also cardamom. So now that I've just added a little bit more spice and warmth to my puree, I'm going to go ahead and plate. So now I'm really starting to feel like a chef. My kitchen smells amazing and I know this is going to be delicious. I have my white ceramic soup bowls now. I love these bowls. I got them from a grocery store a couple years ago and honestly I bought them because I had been binge watching so many cooking shows on television, especially the reality shows like Hell's Kitchen, and I noticed all the chefs were using white ceramic dishes and I had to have a nice modern set myself. So I'm going to go ahead and spoon in a ladle of my pumpkin puree and then I'm going to add in the ravioli and I'm going to continue to alternate between the puree and the ravioli until I have a reasonable serving size. Now on top of the ravioli, I'm going to go with a liberal serving of my fried mushrooms and then I'm going to top it with a little bit of grated Parmesan. Now I have to tell you that I loved this dish. It was so warm, so rich, so perfect for fall. While it's not your traditional Thanksgiving, if you really want to mix it up, it could be a non-traditional Thanksgiving favorite. I have to say I am so absolutely proud of this dish. I wouldn't really change a thing. It has a really great restaurant quality. It's something that you could really see on a menu, especially for vegetarians. So I would highly recommend it to anybody who wants to try it. Now, as for the taste, it does not have a strong pumpkin taste. It has a little bit of a vegetable taste. Honestly, I can taste a little bit of the vegetable stock that I used in there, but it's a little creamy and warm and rich and just a mild pumpkin flavor that would really accent so many other stuffed pastas. Now, when it comes to the herbal profile, I really do like the rosemary, but I could easily see substituting a rosemary for a sage if you want to have a little bit of a bolder flavor. But either way it goes, this is an incredibly beautiful and delicate dish. And once you make something like this, like you are coming up to a whole nother level when it comes to your culinary skills. So let's go ahead and talk about a healthier option. So when it comes to healthier options, it doesn't get better than having some kale and some quinoa. And of course, what kind of millennial would I be if I didn't cook kale and some quinoa? So we're going to go ahead and get started. First thing is I have a large saute pan from Calphalon in a non-stick coating. I love this saute pan. It has a large cooking surface and a large cooking capacity. It's perfect for something as voluminous as kale. I just put a little bit of water and fresh onions. Then I decided to go ahead and add in some roasted garlic and some roasted red pepper. Just to make sure that you're using your time efficiently in the kitchen, I did put in that full pepper and that full head of garlic when I was roasting my pumpkin. So I just chopped it up and tossed it right on top of this kale. Now when it comes to seasoning, I use my Creole seasoning, which I use in so many dishes, a healthy helping of smoked paprika, and then I decided to do something a little different. Now for the most part, when I'm cooking dishes that are going to pair together, I do like to use the same seasoning blend throughout all those dishes, just so that there is some continuity of flavor. But when it comes to the kale, I decided to just add a little bit of a twist. So there is a company called Spice Hunter, and they have a set of global blends, and I picked up their Thai seasoning. So this Thai seasoning contains sesame seeds, chili pepper, coriander, onion, red pepper, and what they call vegetarian shrimp flavor. And that comprises of yeast extract, natural flavoring, silicone dioxide. It also contains garlic, cinnamon, nutmeg, and a little bit of lemon oil. I have to tell you, this Thai seasoning spice blend is absolutely amazing, and I think it adds something extra and unique to the kale. It just gives it that extra boost of flavor, and it is exotic and warm, and it's going to pair just beautifully with this pumpkin puree. So I just couldn't help myself. I added a little bit of ginger paste to pair with the garlic that I used earlier, and then I put in a little red pepper paste as well, just because I felt like that one roasted red pepper may not have been enough. So those of you guys who have been following my channel for a while already know I don't really measure very much when I'm cooking in the kitchen, and today is no exception. I just kind of sprinkle until I'm seeing red, and if I'm not seeing red, I haven't added enough spices to it. Now, I will tell you that I am going to put a little bit of fat in this kale. I want to make sure I cook until all the water is out and the kale is nice and tender, but still very much green. And then I'm going to add in a little bit of fat because I want to make sure that they have kind of a sauteed effect to really pair well with the rest of the dish. And I don't want it to be a dish that's going to give off too much water. So I'm going to use, I'm sure you can guess, a little bit of coconut oil because, as I said, this is a healthier alternative. So once I saute in this coconut oil, we will be ready to serve. Okay, you guys, it is time to plate, but I do have a confession to make. I love quinoa, however, I cannot cook it. Every time I have tried to cook quinoa, I have always overcooked it and it has turned out terribly gummy and mushy, and it's just a nightmare whenever I do it. So my husband, though, is a whiz at preparing quinoa, and he has made today's quinoa. However, he did not want to be on camera cooking, so that was our great compromise. So as I'm plating, I'm using my pumpkin puree. I'm putting it down in a circular pattern, and then I am setting the quinoa right on top of the pumpkin puree. And then I'm going to top it with some kale and some mushrooms, and of course a little fresh rosemary for garnish. So I have to tell you that this quinoa dish came out amazingly good. I actually like to put it in a bowl. So typically when I'm eating, I will have a quinoa bowl because, you know, what else would a millennial do? But I have to say it is so flavorful, so delicious, and so healthy. And oftentimes when it comes to Thanksgiving, we tend to eat foods that are really unhealthy but are delicious just the same. But for those of us who are trying to be a little more health conscious, I want to start a new tradition of maybe having something a little bit healthier for my Thanksgiving dinner. Now, that's not to say that I won't indulge in anything that I really shouldn't have, but I do want to make sure that I have healthier sides as I continue to plan my Thanksgiving meal. So now I'd like to hear from you. Leave a comment in the box below and let me know what your favorite Thanksgiving dish is, whether it be traditional or non-traditional. So today's video is a part of a YouTube collaboration entitled Thanksgiving Favorites. The hosts for this collaboration are The Guy Show and also Culinary Undertaking. I'll have a link to each of our host channels in the description box below, and if you want to check out the other Thanksgiving favorite contributions, be sure to click on that hashtag. So I'm Danielle, the domestic scientist, and I have a lifestyle channel here on YouTube. I do some cooking and decorating and a lot of other fun things to come on my channel. I'd love it if you join me along my journey, so be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.